Hello and welcome to the second devlog for Nobody. My name is Magnum and I'm the solo dev working on the turn-based action RPG hybrid Nobody. In Nobody, you and your friends are trapped in the well, a bizarre and dangerous reality, and are trying to escape. You'll fight weird and wonderful enemies, complete a couple quests, and discover tons of hidden items and secret areas. In this devlog, I'll talk about what I got done this month, what's happening next month, and then I'll answer a couple of your questions at the end. So this month, unfortunately, I finally got COVID after all this time. That being said, I still feel like I've managed to get a lot done this month. First of all, and this is an ongoing thing anyway, there was plenty of bug fixes this month, many bugs, stamped them all out. So I've also received some of the voice acting snippets from members of the voiceover cast, so I've been implementing those as well, and it sounds really good.
Come on. No.
And as you've just seen, I've also updated the dialogue boxes and the character bust art across the game. Speaking of characters and art, the first cameo character has been added. So due to the nature of the game, Nobody will feature a number of characters and references to and from other games. Our first cameo character is Oat from Fur Quest. However, Clownface cannot understand anything the little pup is saying, so you'll have to figure out how to communicate with him. Each cameo character will have a very small quest tied to them and will be hidden quite well. Help them in their quest and to return to their own world, and who knows what might just happen. We now also have a cool level up screen, as the default one is crap. And this spinning wheel will give you bonus stats. As I was going over the entire game, stamping out bugs and adding the aforementioned dialogue stuff, I also added some new interactions and minor details to the world. I really want it to feel rich of lore and stuff to find. Also, after multiple playthroughs and testing, I've also decided to reorder the opening of the game to improve the flow. If you saw the last Atlas video, link in the description, you may have noticed it was talking about horns. A new addition to the game is that the majority of humans have horns growing on various areas of their body. Though it doesn't impact gameplay, it certainly impacts the story and the lore of the world, so I highly recommend you check that video out. I asked folk on Discord, which is also linked in the description, to name Clownface. As you may or may not remember, each of our characters, minus Toby, are using code names. So what is Clownface's real name? I got some interesting responses. However, I have decided to put in a number of different events that occur depending on what you name Clownface. Different names will offer different benefits, so play around, try a couple names and see what happens. Finally, the last change this month is to the logo. Yes, there is a new logo which you may have already seen and I absolutely love it. So that just about does it for this month. For next month I'm going to be doing much of the same. Ideally complete the first act of the game, which means Marked will have joined your party by then and the story will truly begin. So on to the questions that you guys sent in, and there's a lot more than I expected. All of these questions come from Discord, but if you're not on Discord, do feel free to leave questions below in the comments and I will answer them next time. Also, if you like what you've been hearing and seeing thus far, please do consider subscribing to stay up to date on development. The first question comes from Miletta. He asks, what inspired you to make the protagonist a clown? And there's a couple of answers for that. So in the game, the reason why each character looks the way they do is because, once in the well, each person's appearance changes to reflect aspects of their personality and their life. When I wrote the character Clownface, or Charlie, which is his actual name, he has a propensity to cover up his actual feelings with humour, as he's absolutely terrified of disappointing people. So it was sort of second nature to make him a clown, because that's how he wants to be seen, as the happy-go-lucky guy who's always smiling. You'll get to see more of his double personality in the game once I introduce other characters. Another question from Meletta was, why work on an RPG inspired by Undertale and Earthbound? Though I say the game is more akin to Silent Hill crossed with Undertale, I only use Undertale in this case due to a couple of the quirky interactions that the game has. Nobody is the same in that regards, though not to the extent that I feel something like FurQuest is achieving. They're just different games. Undertale's a game that's had great impact on me. The characters, the music, there's just something about it that just really gels with me. Initially, when I began working on Nobody, my first thought was Undertale for adults. Much darker themes essentially, things that would resonate with an adult audience more than a non-adult audience. And honestly, I do think that has been achieved quite a lot. There are some scenes in the game which I have actually cut out or minimized just because they were so heavy, but honestly, they might come back. I don't think I can answer why I chose this style. I guess just because I like Undertale and I felt that making something similar felt achievable with the resources that I have. The next question comes from Corruption, who asks, sex or no sex? I'm assuming you're asking if you're able to have sex in the game, and the answer is no, but there is a romance option, and I'm not going to say any more on that because it's spoilery. Corruption also asks, will there be modding support? I don't know if this is a joke or not, but if not, honestly I don't know what this would entail, so I guess officially no. But if people mod the game after its release, I'm not going to stop them. I think it would be quite cool. Next, Hi asks, why is the guy from Our Dreams in the game? So you're obviously referring to this man. Nobody is quite meta. It references things from in real life and it will even mess with your computer a little bit. And I found the whole concept of it quite fitting for Nobody. So what is his purpose? In the game, he's known as the Doorman and offers challenges for you to complete in order to gain access to some of the most powerful skills in the game. He also speaks to our characters about who they are, what they want in life, almost like a therapist. But that's all I can say for now. The next question is from Cardi. They ask, what is the most challenging thing about being an indie dev? And honestly, I'd say juggling everything is really difficult. Like, not only do I have to work on the game itself, which requires eventing and implementing and balancing and testing, but then there's also interacting with contractors like artists, musicians, voice actors, sound engineers, trying to remain active on social medias, showing off stuff but not too much or too little, and trying to be on Discord as well. It's a huge balancing act, and honestly I still have not found a way to do it efficiently. Another one from Cardi. What made you design the game in the first place? This one's quite simple. When COVID hit, I was out of work, so I decided to make a game. First as a hobby, but then I decided to take it seriously. That's literally it. Sword of Dorks asks, what was the very first design made for Nobody? As I've sort of mentioned previously, it was an idea. Adult Undertale. And then the first thing I made was Clownface, as I'm quite a visual, quite a person orientated writer, I guess. I like to write about people in situations. So I knew I had to start with the protagonist and build outwards and upwards. And by that I mean create the world that Clownface lives in and then build upon that world with lore and stuff. And then like knowing how the character like Clownface, Marked, blah blah blah, knowing that they all live in this world, then how would they react to the situations that they've been put in? That's kind of how I work in that sense. So yeah, it was an idea initially. Adrian asks, how do you make your maps and what things do you think about when it comes to level design? So when it comes, as I've just said, I'm quite visual, so I'm inspired by a lot of other artists. When I go to create an idea, I already have a vague idea or like an image, like the image in my head of what it looks like. And then what I'll do is I'll do research online on like just basically like Google Images or ArtStation or Pinterest even sometimes, just to get like more imagery essentially for myself. So for example, with the main first area, this forest, visually in my head, I knew there were going to be gravestones. I knew there were going to be weird shaped trees. I knew it was going to be quite colourful. So then when I did look online, I found these trees that have this weird curve, which should be on screen right now if I can find the picture again. And I like areas to be quite visually striking, that when the player enters a new area, they know about it. I'm not too concerned, especially with a game like this. I'm not really too concerned about one area seamlessly blending into another. I think with a big open world game, especially one that's in 3D or something, that's more important. I want the player to be able to come into an area, they can easily look at the colours and the themes, and they be able to identify it immediately. I don't want areas to look the same, because I start to get bored and I get distracted. So I'm trying to not do that. As for level design itself, i.e. progression through an area, I begin by thinking, what is the goal for this bit of the map? I try not to have maps for the sake of maps. I know some people might go and be like, this is going to be a huge area and you can go everywhere and whatever else. But I work the opposite of that. I'm kind of like, what is the point of this area? Because again, when I play video games, I don't want to be walking through pointless areas. I don't want to be going and doing pointless things. I don't like in open world games when there is space for the sake of space. For example, like Assassin's Creed Odyssey or Valhalla, where it is just space for the sake of space. I try to give each map a purpose. So in that beginning map, you're just kind of learning the ropes. So the purpose is literally just to get from A to B. So then I think, okay, so we go from A to B. Then I put blockades in the way. So enemies are blockades. I sort of vertical level design as well. So everything's not just on a flat plane. So that, I guess that's a blockade, so the player has to figure out, how do I reach that area? So reaching areas is a blockade, enemies is a blockade, and puzzles, because obviously nobody has a lot of puzzles, that's also a blockade. A bit like a hierarchy tree in my head, basically. So yeah, level design for me equals striking visuals and puzzles. And finally, the last question from Proton, and it's a bit of a long one and a tough one. This video has gone on for way longer than I thought it was going to do. Proton asks, what is the inspiration behind the battle system? Turn-based combat is usually quite similar in RPGs, but nobody stands out. How did you come up with an interesting iteration, and any advice on how to manage that for other RPG devs? I guess all I can say is originality doesn't exist. So don't be scared of taking ideas from one game or whatever and building on them, changing them, developing them to fit what you need. There is no shame in that. Every creator does it, and anyone who says they've never done that is a liar. Make something that you find fun to play. That's another thing. Don't worry about other people. Don't worry about what they want. That might sound a little counterintuitive, but if you spend all your time worrying about what other people think and if they're going to enjoy it, then you'll never get anywhere. And I know that. I've been in that rut where I've seen some absolutely amazing game on Twitter or in a Discord or on Reddit or something like that, and I've been like, my game looks like fucking shit compared to that. Why bother? Why bother working on this? No one's going to like it. I need to change everything to make it more what everyone's going to like. But don't do that. Do not do that. It's a dangerous thing to think, so do not do that. Mash genres together. For example, FurQuest, which I know I've mentioned a million times. FurQuest's an RPG, but the battles are WarioWare minigames. In Nobody, I'm combining puzzle solving with turn-based combat. So you need to find your gimmick. I know that Proton, who asked this question, I know you're working on a game about cats, and I'm not sure if your game has combat, but one idea that comes to mind is combining something like Nintendogs or Nintendcats with an RPG. Think about what Nintendogs does and how the stuff you do in that game could work in an RPG, and I think it actually really could work. But yeah, that's just my opinion. I mean, you can just message me on Discord if you have any other questions. So, okay, that just about does it for today's devlog. It was much longer than I expected, thanks to all the questions, but that's not a bad thing. Please do ask any questions that you might have, please do. One last thing I thought I'd mention is that at some point in the oncoming weeks, I'm going to be streaming on Twitch on a Sunday for a couple hours. I might either play a other game or work on Nobody. It just depends on what I feel like on that day. I've also linked the channel down below in case that interests you. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next devlog.